everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to Philly with John Marks. I am, of course, not John Marks. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for this episode of Philly, and I am very excited to talk to you today. And of course, we are brought to you by the BetParx Sportsbook and Casino. BetParx, this is how you win. And our fighting Phils last night showed us just exactly how they win. And as Rich Hoffman put in today's PHLY newsletter, God bless the Rockies. The Phils, the first 6 innings weren't pretty. They're losing 3-1 through 6 to a team with 8 wins on the season. But it didn't take a whole lot, but they were able to come away and secure that win with few home runs, few long balls there. Kyle Schwarber, his 300th of his career, a freaking bomb. Sosa puts one in the seats. Big hits from Turner, Bohm, and the Phils get to go home, or at least end game 1 of this series out in Colorado. Happy. We're going to talk plenty about the Phils and the role that they've been on, but real quick, dear Lord, what are the Colorado Rockies? 8-39. I guess the question comes down to Bull Durham. How'd we ever win 8? It's a miracle. Tyler Zulli producing today's show, our resident Phillies expert. Dear Lord, what the hell are the Rockies, Tyler? Like, is that a major league team? Who cares? Phillies win. It's great. But when I see 8-39, and then I see the next worst National League team is Pittsburgh, who've won 15 games. That's like double. That's almost twice as many wins as the Rockies have. What is this team?
Yeah, it's funny. I was looking at the numbers yesterday before I did the series preview, and as I was like laying them out and typing them all out, I'm like, this is just getting worse and worse and worse. Because you're right. Like 8 wins in the first 47 games is just like it's almost unfathomable across baseball. We always talk about most teams through like the first 75, 80 games hover around the 500 mark.
Yeah.
And there's a
plus
handful,
or minus 3 or 4.
Right. There's a handful of teams that are like 10 over, and there's a handful of teams that are like 10 under. But to be 31 games under 500, 47 games into the season is almost unfathomable how bad they are. And it's kind of funny that the Phillies have now faced 2 of the 3 teams in consecutive series that have fired their managers already.
Like, it's not even Memorial Day and we're firing managers. Right. It is unfathomable to have a 170 winning percentage, especially this early in the season. Like, I gotta believe when that paycheck hits. I don't know how the pay structure works, but when that paycheck hits, like every 2 weeks, you're a Colorado Rocky. You're like, damn right.
Like it's hazard pay at this point.
Yeah, like you're just every team wins 56 and loses 56, and it's what you do with the other 56. They're gonna go 0-56. That's what's going to happen in those other 56 for the Colorado Rockies. It's truly incredible that they are this bad, but hey, everybody plays everybody. That's just the way it goes. Phils, take advantage. And listen, how often do we say, hey, if this comes down to a game or 2 at the end, how mad are we going to be that they let it get away from them? This isn't one they let get away. It was slipping. They almost wasted a good pitching performance, almost just kind of sleptwalk through the game, but they come out on the other side, and that's really what matters. I got to say, the vibes around the team lately with the Alvarado suspension, I felt like it was just, wow, we're right now in first place in the National League, but right there contending, a half game back, a game back. Why isn't everyone as stoked about this team as should be? The best team in the National League, or one of the 3 best teams in the National League. Where is the juice for this? And I guess Jose Alvarado had quite a bit of the juice, but I really feel like a turning point for, if not the season, because they've been good. They've won now They've won 4 in a row, 6 of the last 7 series. Most likely going to make it 7 of 8 unless a disaster strikes.
Yeah, 16 of their last 21 games.
They have 7-3 in the last 10. They've been really good. It just doesn't feel like there's much juice here. And I think Mick Abel is kind of a turning point just because it's something new, Tyler. I was down in Wildwood this past weekend for a wedding. We did a bar crawl on Sunday, a little post-wedding activity. And first place we hit, we were watching the Phils game, and people were into it. People, oh, this kid, he's looking good. He's got strikeouts. And it just felt like something fresh and new to kind of get us going a little bit that it just feels like we haven't really had in a little bit. So many people in the offseason, like, oh, what did they even do? It's the exact same team. They're running it back. I realize a rookie call up, he's made one start. It's not going to be the catalyst to a pennant, but it just feels like it was a little refreshing for us, especially on a day where we got really, really bad news about Jose Alvarado. He's out for 80 games and the playoffs, so his season is effectively over. Did you get that feeling, Tyler? Because I was just like, this feels new. People are excited. Everyone at this bar is like locked into what this kid is doing. I did not think it was going to be that way, and it was.
Well, yeah, and I think part of the reason is because the Phillies have been in this spot just a year ago. At this point last year, they were 33 and 14, I think it was 33 and 14 through their first 47 games. They're 29 and 18. They're 11 games over 500. They're beating the teams they're supposed to beat, like Pittsburgh and like Colorado, and they're stacking series wins and they're stacking victories. And I think this is almost to a point where fans are saying, let me see what you can do in October. Let me see what you can do in the end of September. Because, I mean, remember last year the Phillies were a 500 team from the All-Star break on. And,
yes.
And really were not a very competitive team in the postseason against the Mets in those 4 games. I think that plays a part into it. And I think you brought up the team that was kind of run back. And I laid out a couple weeks ago about why that really was the only option they had monetarily speaking. But even with that, the Phillies were the last team this year to have a player make their major league debut. Mick Abel was the last player amongst all 30 teams to make a major league debut for any given ball club. And you can look at that in 2 ways. You can say that's a good thing because they have a set team, or it's a stubbornness to a little extent to say that they're, running back a team that was pretty concrete to begin with. But I think you're right. On Sunday, there was some juice because not only was it a really excellent pitching performance from a kid making his debut, he did it up against Paul Skeens, who, when you're pitching on razor-thin margins like that, because Skeens was really, really good,
it
awesome. Makes it even more impressive.
No, absolutely. And that's the Major League debut thing. That really gets to the point of the running it back and how it was monetarily, okay, this is what they had to do. And it's, and I've heard John say, well, they have the 3rd highest payroll in baseball. Is that not enough? Well, yes, when you have no homegrown stars, when you haven't made anybody, like, all right, yeah, Aaron Nola, that was like a decade ago, and he's the 4 at this point. Like, Alec Boehm, we're all mad at him all the time. Bryson Stott, he's okay, nice. Like, there really isn't anybody that they've called up and, oh, yeah, this is it. This is something here. So when you have to buy every player, that's the financial position you're in. It's nice just to have someone to come up and go, he gave us something out of this system. It just feels a little different. And I'm feeling a little different about the team today. And I'm trying not to take anything prior to Memorial Day all that seriously because it happens all the time. You said just last year, this is a special team. They're going to win 120 games. Like, well, they didn't.
Sure.
Then they got bounced by the freaking Mets, which is the worst possible outcome of any season, losing to the Mets to end your year. But I'm feeling a little different now. I'm feeling a little refreshed. There's just a little something there that wasn't a couple of days ago, at least in my feeling towards this team, Tyler.
Yeah, and I think when you bring up the homegrown talent, right, you could go back to the last 2 decades, right? Even when Jimmy Rollins made his debut, the Phillies were not good. But Jimmy Rollins made his debut, and it was like, whoa, this kid's a catalyst.
Like, it was something,
he's going to be good. And then, Chase Utley makes his debut and hits a grand slam in his debut. And then Cole Hamels makes his debut and strikes out 7. And really, Cole Hamels talked about it on the broadcast the other day. He made his debut with 2 pitches. He was fastball changeup. He had nothing else. The curveball really wasn't very good. He hadn't developed. I think he ended up throwing a cutter later in his career.
Yeah, he figured out that cutter in like 2010, I think.
Right. So you had a guy, but like there was juice there. And then you had a pretty sizable gap. And now, granted, you had a team that was veteran laden and was really, really good and you didn't need it. And then you had a really bad team and it didn't really matter.
Yeah.
And you were hanging your hat on guys like Michael Franco,
Tommy Joseph.
Right. Tommy Josephs, the Jake Thompsons and the Eichhoffs and things like that. But now you're back to a point where you have a farm system that's starting to get good again. And I think you're going to see a bunch of these guys make their debuts in the next couple of years that give you that sense of homegrown love. Abel was the first. I think you're going to see Crawford probably at some point this year. You'll see Painter at some point this year. Aiden Miller's not terribly far away, maybe 2 or 3 years from then. And then Eduardo Tait's the long guy out, but he's probably your catcher of the future. So that gives you some love to there is merit to that homegrown thing. That I think holds really dear in any city, but especially in Philadelphia.
And it just gives us that refreshment that we haven't had and we really haven't been able to have, especially this past offseason. Like you said, listen, they're not going to have $1 billion payroll, And as much as it's not my money, the guy has it, but how much can you actually spend? You do have to make your own stars at a certain point. You have to have a constant refresh. It just felt like a little something new. And it was refreshing. It was really nice to see and good for the kid, man, because I know a lot of us were kind of, all right. We see him coming up a couple of years ago. All right. Looks like he has something, got to get the control down. And then you see the ERA and everything last year and, maybe he doesn't have it. And now the fact that he was able to turn it around and eventually make his major league debut and do it successfully, really, really exciting. Really excited for the kid as well. This portion of the show brought to you by our friends at GLAT Hair Restoration, GLAT Hair by Morgenstern Medical Group. Make sure you check out GLAT Hair because, look at Johnny Marks. That's a handsome man with a full head of hair. That's not what he looked like before he went to GLAT. That's all I'll tell you. All right, I wanted to talk a little bit about those some great debuts we have seen. My favorites going back. That's a really good one that Tyler just brought up with Jimmy Rollins. I'll never forget the Pat Burrell debut, just because he was so hyped. And he comes in, I think it was in Houston. He has the double right away. That's when Houston, the ballpark was really, really different looking. They still had the hill. They still had the light pole, all that. I'll just never forget. I was, 2000, 2001. So I was a little kid at the time, probably 6th, 7th grade, I believe. The Carson Wentz debut, that was great. But wasn't a major league debut. Kyle Schwarber's Philly debut, though, opening day 2022. First at bat, our very first Philly Schwarbomb. He now has 147 as a Phil, 300 in his career. This guy just keeps getting better. I want to know when this freaking extension gets done because I cannot imagine this team without Kyle Schwarber. We talk about this offense and what it's supposed to be, how it hasn't really lived up to expectations. Really, since they got no hit in the World Series, but you go back to last season, after the All-Star break, like Tyler brought up, they're a 500 team. Just not a ton of juice there. You think about the dangerous bats in this lineup. It's Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper. I can't imagine this lineup without Schwarber. I don't want to imagine it. He's 32 years old. For some reason, I have it in my head he's older. Like, I just feel like he's 35, 36 for some reason. I always have to look and go, 32. All right. It's not terrible, especially in baseball years, especially for a guy who's not going to waste a ton of energy in the field playing DH most of the time. I really, really can't wait to see this thing get done. Huge Kyle Schwarber fan, Tyler, and what would this offense be without him? Quite honestly, you see what he's done. Again, 11 years in the majors, almost half of his home runs have come here. He's getting better with age. This is a bad offense without Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah, I mean, he has been the catalyst prior to this change in what he is as a hitter. He was the catalyst, as the 170 or 196, 200 strikeout guy, but hit 48 home runs. And his OBP was 380, despite the fact that he was hitting, 196, right?
200 at best. Yeah.
So I think and Rob Thompson, he got asked point blank and he responded point blank. He was asked, is he getting better as a hitter? And Thompson's like 100% getting better as a hitter. He's getting better as a hitter against lefties. That's the most obvious thing, is he's hitting well over 300 for the second consecutive year against left-handed pitching. The other thing to me is his approach with 2 strikes. He is not, I mean, listen, he's going to strike out a lot. He's still going to strike out. He's on pace even this year for a low year, and it's going to be like 160, which is a low year for him. But his approach with 2 strikes is so much better over the last 2 seasons, and especially this year so far. He's, has a willingness to go to all fields. He has a willingness to take the base hit, right? And sometimes you need a line drive in the book. Sometimes you just need a bleeder to get through, or a bloop to fall into no man's land and continue, play station to station baseball. And Schwarber's done a really good job of doing those things, on top of the fact that the power's still there, the RBI production is still there, the plate discipline and the eye are still there. This guy just continues to get better and better as 2 or 25 or 28, or he was 8 months ago. That's how good he's gotten over the last 2 calendar years.
Yeah, it's really freaking impressive what he's been able to do at this later stage of his career. It's not like he's 40 years old, but it just bodes well if you're going to sign this guy to an extension,
right? That
he's not trending down. You're seeing things, like you said, like he's hitting lefties better than he did when he got here 4 years ago. He is he's hitting for a higher average. He's getting on base just the same. He's still going to strike out a ton, like you said, but you live with it because every other at bat is in some way productive. Basically, it's really, really, it's exciting to see a player not trending down as you're about to. You have to re-sign Kyle Schwarber. Who the hell else is going to fill this role? That if not him, it's him and Harper. That is the offense at this point.
There's no question about it. There is a blank check waiting for Kyle Schwarber, and the number that's going to be written on it is going to be a lot more than the number that was written on the last one. Yes. He got 4 for $79 million, which, looking back on it, is an unbelievable steal for the Phillies for the productivity that he's put together. Per year now, Bill, he is 82nd in AAV per season. He's less than $20 million a year. He's 82nd in AAV across Major League Baseball. That the number is going to start with a 1, and it's going to have 3 digits in it. And the more I know it's kind of cliche to say the longer they wait, the more it gets, but it's becoming more and more true. You're probably looking at least 120 for 4 seasons. I mean, 30 a year seems pretty fair, I think, in this conversation. And I think that might be the starting point.
I would love to know how many guys have signed for a bigger total contract in their 30s than they did at 28. I would like to see that number. That's 4 for 125. I just saw it's going to be it's impressive that he's been able to do it, honestly, more than anything else. But yeah, Phillies, I don't think they have any choice but to get this done, and to get this done as soon as possible. Now, of course, Schwarber has to agree, and he also sees hey, man, what happens when I hit 45? What happens when I lead the National League in home runs for a second time in 4 years with this team? Maybe he's not so on board with getting this thing done early, and he shouldn't be. Why give them the discount of even if it's just a few million here or there? Why allow that to happen? But I just hope they're able to get this done and get this done soon, because again, I can't imagine this lineup without him. I see a couple of guys who an opposing pitcher might actually fear. They come up to the plate and they're, all right, we got to think about this one. And it's Kyle Schwarber, and it's Bryce Harper, and nobody else.
Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Schwarber. That's where you're
hard
at.
To argue. Hard to argue right now. When you see the production, you see the power, you see the on-base numbers, it's, it's Kyle Schwarber. I still think part of us all maybe see Schwarber as, all right, he hit 47, but he's going to hit 190. That isn't who he is anymore. That, he's a different guy. He is a better hitter than that. And the Phillies need to get this done as soon as possible. And last night was just another example of it, Tyler, how he can just kind of change a game, just kind of change the momentum of a game. And a thing that, all right, they pulled ahead, it's looking better. Oh, all right, yeah, we're killing them now. It's freaking over. That was Kyle Schwarber last night. All right, before we go any further in today's show, we got to take a break to hear from a couple sponsors. Got to lead it off with our friends at TrueMark Financial Credit Union because it's HELOC month. That's right. Listen, as you can see, a lot of us have been working from home here at PHLY the last couple days. And listen, you look around, you got to have a good setup. You're working from home. You're doing this regularly. You can't be calling plays from the couch if this is an everyday activity for you. But it takes time. This isn't what my office looked like even just a few months ago. It takes some time to get things together, to get all your projects done. Well, if you're working from home, TrueMark Financial HELOC Select, you can tap into your home's equity and finally upgrade that home office or just build out a better space and finish the projects you have been putting off. We all have things around the house that, yeah, man, we'll get to it when we get to it. I don't know. I'm going to live here for 30 years. I don't think I need to get this done right yet. But you want to. You want to have the best possible home. You want everything. You want the most out of your space. Well, with a HELOC Select, you can do it because a HELOC Select, what are the benefits? A great low rate, a better rate than most personal loans, and flexible access that allows you to pull funds all at once or only when you need them. Are you going to just, okay, let's take out this big chunk and get everything done, or let's go project by project, see what we have, see what needs to be done, and go from there. And with a HELOC Select, there are no penalties if you pay it off early. If you're one of those real financially responsible people, no penalty for paying off your loan early. So visit TrueMark.com/PHLY to apply and turn your work from home game into a winning play. Terms and conditions apply. Visit TrueMark.com/HELOC. That's TrueMark.com/HELOC for details. Federally insured by the NCUA, Equal Opportunity Lender, NMLS number 404938. And while we're here, got to tell you about one of our presenting sponsors. That's right. It's the BetParx Sportsbook. It is, I am really, really a big fan of BetParx, the sportsbook app, everything that they have, and the sportsbook that they've got down at the casino. The one and only sportsbook app I recommend to everybody is BetParx, and the BetParx Sportsbook app. An online casino has a great offer for new customers to kick off the season. It's an amazing 50-1 odds boost on your pick to win this year's Pro Football Championship. All new users who sign up, make a deposit, receive a 50-1 super odds boost. BetParx.com has all the terms and conditions. Get odds boosted to 50-1. Yes, that's right, 50-1. And here are the top 6 favorites to win the Pro Football Championship this coming season. It's KC, San Fran, Baltimore, Detroit, Cincinnati, Philly all the way down there at 6th. How about that? All right, download the BetParx Sportsbook app online casino right now and get your 50-1 super odds boost on your pick for this year's Pro Football Champion. It's a limited time offer for new customers only. BetParx.com has terms and conditions. You must be 21 and in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Michigan, or Maryland. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet. BetParx. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Big fan of that BetParx Sportsbook. We're going to have our parlay of the day coming up in just a little bit. I think I might have a hockey play tonight. I'm debating right now. I know Tyler, he's going to give you that. He's going to give you some baseball, but we've got Stanley Cup playoff action tonight. I might have to get something in on that Panthers Hurricanes game 1 this evening. All right, it looks like while yes, the vibes are good right now, this Jose Alvarado suspension, 80 games and the playoffs. This is kind of putting a little bit of a question mark on what the plan is going to be going forward for this Phillies team, I would say, because I don't think anyone was all that comfortable with the bullpen to begin with. If they were going to make an ad, yeah, we'd love to see an outfielder, but a bullpen piece, I think, was always the most likely addition. And now, well, maybe you need 2 bullpen pieces, or maybe you're able to, you look at the number of starting pitchers this team has, maybe you're able to make some conversions, especially when you get to the postseason. All these starting pitchers, you're not going to use them all. Maybe you can transition some of them to the pen, but it is putting them in a tough spot. I think it was Harper, when asked about the situation the other day, said, it's tough because teams know you need it. This isn't something you can hide. This isn't a press release put out by the league. We just lost one of our best relievers, and he's out for a considerable amount of time, plus the playoffs. Well, you're going to get held ransom for this. Tyler, what do you think the options actually are in terms of replacing Jose Alvarado? Is it moving Ranger Suarez to the pen? Is it going outside? Is it calling someone else up? What can they actually do here?
Yeah, I think it was something that I talked about yesterday. I don't think in the immediacy of this situation, I think you'll probably see like a Seth Johnson type of player get a little bit of run. They brought up Max Lazar in the immediate immediacy. But I think down towards the deadline, the issue becomes as more teams make the playoffs, more teams feel like they can compete. And therefore, they are less likely to deal from a position of strength unless they feel like they're getting a really good return. So I went back last year and I looked at all of the high leverage relievers that were traded last year at the deadline. And the reality is a lot of these guys went for fairly sizable prospect returns, at least in terms of the number prospect that they were. Like Tanner Scott went for 2 top 15 prospects that are now, and all these guys are now within their current organization. 2 top 15 prospects. Lucas Erceg went for the guy that is now the A's number 3 prospect. Carlos Estevez. Now, again, the Angels organization is not very good in terms of their farm system, but George Klassen's now the Angels' 3rd prospect. Sam Aldigari is the Angels' 5th prospect. Even Gregory Soto, who the Phillies moved to Baltimore. Yeah. Seth Johnson's the Phillies' 12, and Moises Chase now shut down for the year with Tommy John, but he's their 5 heading into the season. These guys that are even half decent went for some pretty sizable prospect returns. Even Tanner Banks. William Bergoya is the White Sox 15th prospect, and he's 15 because he was bumped down with the big Garrett Crochet deal that they made this offseason. Yep. He was like 11 or 12 before that. So, even mid-tier guys are going for fairly decent prospects, at least middle-ranked prospects within teams' organizations. It's going to cost the Phillies. And I think they were, as you said, they were already in the market for 1. Does that mean they're in the market for 2? Certainly possible. Or does that mean they convert one of these starters who has power stuff into a reliever? Those are your 2 options.
Yeah, I just love what they have in terms of the starting pitching. It seems like this is their competitive advantage. So yes, you could take a little away to strengthen something else, but is it hurting what you do better than anyone else? Is it hurting the one thing that puts you in the category of these best teams in the National League? I'm hesitant to do it, but it's also how much can you give up, especially for short-term ads, especially for relievers who are only going to be here a couple of years, if that. Very, very interested to see how they handle this situation. I'm sure it's going to be a mixed bag. Would love to see maybe Caleb Cotham get his hands on some guys in this farm system, see if we can, again, create our own, because that's been an issue. It's been an issue for years. If we can just even get a little more out of like Orion Kerkering and guys who we've seen come up, but maybe not excel in the high leverage situations. It's why Jose Alvarado was so important, because you could put him in any of those situations. Would love to see that be the case, but they're going to have to add. That's really what it comes down to, I think. They're going to have to add, and it's just a question of how much are they really willing to give up. But this was a hit. As much as I'm optimistic about the team, This is just a hit. You can't lose a guy like this, and it's not like it's preventable. It's he took a line drive off okay, nothing you can do about that. Come back or to the mound, something like that. This is it just sucks. It really, and I never blame guys for using PEDs, because listen, look what is expected of Jose Alvarado. Every couple of days, come out and throw 20 pitches 100 miles an hour. Yeah, I bet his arm's tired. I bet he's freaking exhausted. I bet you that takes a lot out of you. I have no idea personally, but I can assume that takes quite a bit out of you.
I could throw two pitches that combine for 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, I could exactly. And that would be like Bill needs to ice his arm for a week now, Like,
yeah, I think that this team, obviously bullpen depth was questioned. I think the bullpen's been much better in the last month or so than it was in the first month of the season. But the depth was always in question. The one thing that I always felt comfortable with was your three lefties. You had high leverage Alvarado or highest leverage Alvarado. You had a guy in Matt Strahm who, doesn't have the best stuff in the world, but just takes the ball and wins game. And,
he's the job done.
And I am one of the biggest Matt Strahm fans in the world. And then Tanner Banks allowed you to kind of be flexible. You can use him against lefties. You use him in lower leverage. He was better as of late before the home run he gave up to Junior Caminero against Tampa last week or 2 weeks ago. But I think that, your three lefties there in place were like highest, high, medium to low, and you felt good. Now you don't have your highest left-handed leverage reliever. It really puts an onus on your other two guys, especially on Matt Strahm, to now have to be that dude.
Yeah, it just taxes everyone else in a bullpen. Like you said, they've been good, but when it gets later into the season and you really start testing the depth, how good is it? Now, the little bit of depth they had is very much even more in question. So we'll see how it plays out. I can't imagine we go much longer without some sort of addition. Obviously, deadline spur action when the big moves, if they occur, will come at closer at least to the trade deadline. But I bet there's something in the more near future just to have a little bit extra out there. But it's a freaking hit, man. We just did the GLAT read, but I gotta tell you, Bryce Harper's haircut, it's working out. It's working out, Tyler. I do take I do take exception. He didn't shave his head, right? Like, shaving your head means you're either like a buzz all the way down or you are absolutely bald. You have Vin Diesel haircut. He has a fade, and he's got a short haircut. It's surprising, but you can't argue with the numbers. It has certainly worked. He has taken a page out of the Nick Sirianni playbook, and he's hitting like 435 since he shaved his head. It has gone very, very well for Bryce Harper. And you just talk about the change of the vibes, like I was talking about with Mick Abel. Baseball's a ridiculous game, Tyler. Sometimes I take off my batting gloves. Sometimes I change my stance, and then sometimes I just go to the barbershop. And it seems to have worked for Bryce Harper, who has turned around a little bit what was really a frustrating start to this season.
Yeah, I mean, 10 hits in his last 6 games, 6 RBI in his last 6 games. The average has gone from 232 at the end of the first game against the St. Louis Cardinals. Now he's up to 263. But more importantly than that, the slug is from 419 to 440, and his OPS is from 770 to 816. I mean, those two things tell you that he's hitting the ball hard. He's hitting it in the gaps. He's got some extra base hits to his credit. And then last night you saw one where a hitter gets when they're going. When a hitter's not going, you hit a ball hard, and you saw with Bryce Harper early in the season, he was hitting balls hard. He had like 6 balls against the Nationals, and 5 of them were outs. Last night, he hits this little bleeder pop shot over the third shortstop's head that finds some soft spot in left field, RBI single. And it's just the stupidity and the beauty of the game at the same time. It is, I always say, Bill, it is the dumbest, beautiful game in the world, because sometimes inches off the bat handle, or a kick off the bag, or it hits off the mound, or positioning, all those things factor into that should not have been a base hit, but it was. And he got an RBI out of it, got the Phillies on the board. And when you're going, you get those hits. And when you're not going, you smoke a ball and you hit it right at the shortstop. So it's just it's ebbs and flows of the season. And right now he is in a pretty good flow.
Yeah, it's I always think of the again, Bull Durham for a second time today. Like the difference between a 250 and a 300 hitter, one more dying quail a week. You just
Yes.
get those one more drops in, and it is nice to see Harper turning it on because again, other than he and Schwarber, who does anybody fear in this lineup? Tyler, if you had let's say Tyler Zulli becomes GM of the Philadelphia Phillies. Do you want a bat or do you want an arm? You can only do one thing.
Oh,
You
I
can
want a bat.
shore up the bullpen depth or you can get an outfield.
Oh, interesting. I don't know. Now with the Alvarado news, I may take
Yeah.
the bullpen side of it. Just because I think you can never have enough good bullpen arms in a postseason. I think they ran out of juice in the 2022 World Series because Alvarado was throwing every day.
Yeah.
And Robertson was throwing every day. And I think they just ran out of juice towards the end. The bullpen had just gotten taxed, especially considering they really only had 3 starters at that point. I think I would take a bullpen piece, but I mean, if I could add a legitimate everyday center fielder, it would be hard to turn down.
It's just like, yeah, how many of those are available? Like,
Right now,
yeah,
none.
I would love that.
Right.
Who?
Well, and it goes back to the conversation about the teams that are like out of the postseason. Is there anybody in that Rockies bullpen you want? Is there anybody in the Nationals bullpen you want? Not really.
I don't know. There's this kid with the Rockies. He got some center field experience. He was a number 1 overall pick. I think maybe we should give that Moniak kid a try. Maybe he's got a little juice. But no, I want a more dynamic offense. I just don't know if there's any realistic way to create that other than, hey, everyone making $20 million plus, do your freaking jobs. And the thing that you might actually be able to do is address the bullpen. So I guess I'd have to go in that direction.
Yeah, I think that's the obvious thing, right? Is the guys that are expected to contribute need to contribute, because I talked about it yesterday. So Harper's hitting better as of late, and there's no question about it. Trey Turner has been excellent over the last 3 or 4 weeks. But Max Kepler has struggled. Max Kepler, making $10 million, has really struggled in the last month. JT Realmuto's offense is pretty clearly sapped. He has 3 hits against left-handed pitching all year. And then your center field position is a mix and match. And, I think you can still listen. They scored 9 runs yesterday, and they won 4 straight games, and they're 11 games over 500. So this is not me saying they're not playing good baseball, because they are. But I think if you're looking for dynamics, as you brought up, the easiest solution to that is one of the guys who is not particularly hitting at this time to start hitting.
No, and that's what they need, is for everyone to kind of, meet the back of their card, as they say. Like, you have to put up the numbers that are expected of you, that are commensurate with your salaries. But yeah, I guess short of being able to just go out and create a player, adding to the bullpen is the most realistic option. So I guess that's the direction I would go. And yeah, you can never have enough arms, especially when it comes to the postseason. So we've seen them run out of gas that way. I guess I just want an everyday outfielder, man. Like, it would just be so nice to know, oh yeah, it's not Max Kepler, Brandon Marsh. We're not just kind of piecing this thing together. It is a set lineup. But, having 1 or 2 holes out there, I guess, with the rest of the roster they have. And again, we're complaining about a first place team right now. This is the best team in the National League at this very moment.
Right. And you want to talk about, and Broken Bell Network brings it up. Like, last year, Jazz Chisholm's probably the guy that could have been the spark for the team. And I at the time, I was still riding the Alec Boehm train, and I just didn't know where Chisholm was going to play, if it wasn't going to be. I mean, maybe I guess he could have played. He's played outfield in the past. I guess you could have had him play center and see what happens. But Chisholm ends up playing third for the Yankees and was really good down the stretch. Then you end up with guys who are unexpected, right? The Dodgers make a trade at the deadline that was really centered around them getting Michael Kopech to bolster their bullpen. But instead, they end up getting postseason hero Tommy Edman out of the deal. Yeah. And, Kopech was good, don't get me wrong, but Tommy Edman ends up being the steal of that trade. Sometimes it's unexpected moves. The Phillies tried to get better. They got Austin Hayes. Now, no fault of his own that he ended up with a kidney infection. That's just not on him, and things happen. But when he was on the field, he wasn't productive, and probably due in part to that kidney infection. I got to imagine it's tough to
One
bounce
would
back
think,
from.
yeah.
But they tried to get better offensively last year, and it didn't work. And they're going to probably try to do the same thing this year at the deadline as well. But there's only a finite amount of moves that any team can make. And if you're thinking about you need to at least make one bullpen move, I think that's going to end up being their priority.
Absolutely, especially when you go through the rank of prospect that it takes to add anybody at this point.
Right.
How many of those guys are you willing to give up? Me personally, I've been watching this team a long time. I'm not all that attached to any prospect. Also, I'm not the general manager. I'm not the scouting department. I'm not the one who has to lose his job because, oh yeah, who cares? Trade Andrew Painter. I don't want that to happen now. But 2-3 years ago, yeah, I was like, trade Andrew Painter. He's already got Tommy John surgery. Let's do it. Now I want to see him because he's back. But, shiny new toy. All right, before we wrap up today's conversation, we got to take one more quick break. 1-800-588-2300 Empire today. Listen, I've been talking about Empire on the Flyers show. Johnny's been telling you about Empire. Everyone at PHLY has been telling you that Empire is the place to get new flooring. You've been hearing it for years. You know that jingle. I don't have it written down. I just know it in my head from watching TV my whole life. Why is that? Because Empire today has been around forever. And they are the place to get new flooring. And why are they the standard? It's because they have flooring experts. Empire today has people who live and breathe flooring. It's not like when you go into a big box store and, all right, if you can find anyone to help you, they have no idea what they're talking about. And you end up hauling everything out to the car yourself. You bring it home. You hope your measurements were right. It was pretty close. I think I did a decent job. And then about halfway through, you're like, you know what? I'm not a contractor. I have to go and call one. This is not the job for me. It's not like that at Empire Today. Empire Today's experts are with you every step of the way, and you don't have to go find them. They bring the showroom right to your home so you can pick the right flooring and the right colors for your space in your space and see how it looks up against your furniture in your house, the colors of your paint, all of that. See it right there. And they take the precise measurements and have all your questions answered, so there are never any surprises. And with Empire Today, you get clear, upfront, and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. It doesn't get quicker than that. So schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. And PHLY listeners can receive a $350 discount when using promo code PHLY. You heard that right, a $350 discount with code PHLY. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/PHLY for full details. And while we're here, got to tell you about GLAT Hair Restoration. That's right, GLAT Hair by Morgenstern Medical. If your hairline's been slipping and you're thinking about doing something about it, listen up. Hair transplants aren't just cosmetic. They're real surgery. And if you're considering, flying overseas to save a buck, don't do that. Really think about that. Don't do it. Think again. At GLAT Hair by Morgenstern Medical in Bala Cynwyd, you're getting care from board-certified surgeons with over 30 years of experience. They follow strict U.S. safety standards and deliver results that actually last. Like I said earlier, look at Johnny Marks. He had that procedure done over a decade ago. That man has a beautiful head of hair still, and it's because of our friends at GLAT. And here's the best part. You can just text them a photo of your hair right now, and the GLAT team will take a look and let you know what options make the most sense for you. No pressure, just expert insight. So skip the travel, skip the risk, get real care from a trusted local team. Text your photo or call 610-980-4000 or visit GLATHairMM.com. That's GLAT Hair by Morgenstern Medical. Let's get that hairline back in the game. All right. Speaking of back in the game, it looks like Tush Push is coming out of the game. I believe the vote is today, and Johnny Marks would be He'd be upset with me if we did not discuss a little tush push today because, man, this thing, it's just a freaking joke. And honestly, now I am looking forward to the league banning this play with some real asinine language that may have some repercussions. If you checked out the PHLY Eagles show, if you've checked out anything Zach Berman has done on the subject recently, if you read the PHLY newsletter this morning, some of the language in the Packers' proposal to ban the tush push, man, it could have some repercussions. Like, you're not allowed to aid a teammate in any way other than individually blocking the player in front of him. So what about double team blocks? Really good question. I wonder. That's not individual. There's just a lot of little stuff in this language that could have repercussions that the league, I don't think, is thinking about simply because they don't like this play. It bothers them. It bothers them because the Eagles are great at it. That's really what it comes down to. The Eagles and the Bills, to some extent, have run it in the last 3 years more than the whole rest of the league combined. I think I saw the stat today. It's less than 1% of all plays, the tush push around the league. We are not talking about we're not talking about a plague on this on the NFL that has just destroyed the integrity of the game. This unstoppable play. First of all, the Eagles and Bills last 3 years, they're 87% on the tush push. Rest of the league combined, 71%. This is not an unstoppable play. This is not something that cannot be prevented. It's just something that a few people don't like. A few people, including Roger Goodell. And that's really all it comes down to. So I'm looking forward now to this getting done, to the league teaming up to stop the Eagles. Oh, we gotta make sure this thing that's so bad for player safety that every play in the league, every play is more dangerous than this one. In fact, it might be the safest play in football, quite honestly. We got to team up to make sure this comes out of the league. I can't wait for the Eagles just to line up, run a regular quarterback sneak, and convert at nearly the exact same rate. Because that's what's going to happen. They're going to be just as good at the regular quarterback sneak as they are this play. I'm looking forward to it, honestly, because, they're tush push merchants and all this and that. No, guess what? It's still only 9 yards to a first down for the Eagles. We still have Jalen Hurts. We still have Jeff Stoutland. We still have the best offensive line in football. And this is going to change absolutely nothing. And I can't wait to see what they come up with next. I really, really look forward to see how they will try to harm or discredit the Eagles, because that's a big thing as well now. Nick Sirianni got his much-deserved contract extension. Listen, I have been as skeptical as anybody on the actual head coaching abilities of Nick Sirianni. But at a certain point, you just have to take a step back and go, I don't know everything. Maybe I'm wrong. And clearly, I think a lot of the Nick Sirianni critics have been incorrect, because a good head coach doesn't have this sort of success. He doesn't go to the postseason 4 straight times. He doesn't win 2 NFC championships and a Super Bowl. He doesn't go to the playoffs every single year. Doesn't win the division. He's a great coach, and I'm astounded by it. Trust me, I was a skeptic. Still kind of I don't know exactly what he does here, but I do think there is a specific thing you can point to just in terms of his leadership abilities. 2023, this locker room fell apart. It did. It's very obvious. And that's a team that had some long-tenured veteran leaders on it. We're talking Jason Kelce, Fletcher Cox. They're gone. So that little buffer in the locker room, you also lose. You come back, you start 2-2. Things ain't going well. And then you rip off what you ripped off and go all the way to the Super Bowl and defeat Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs in the fashion that you did. I don't know how we credit anybody, but thank you, Tyler. Joking to death over here. I don't know how we credit anybody but Nick Sirianni at this point. Like, yes, there's a lot of talent. Howie Roseman, an incredible job accumulating talent, assets, the draft, figuring this thing out, the coaching staff. Yeah, man, Vic Fangio, huge ad. The draft that they added all these defenders in over the last couple of years, they've done great. But what other team doesn't credit their head coach for their success the way it seems like is getting like the Nick Sirianni thing here? And I think people have really come around on Nick. Like, he's kind of ours. Like, oh, you don't think he's any good? Nah, he sucks. He's just a Super Bowl champion. Think about that one. You know, like,
I think
it seems like he doesn't get credit.
For sure. It's one of those things. And I've always said this about the Coach of the Year award. Coach of the Year award is a bell curve because there's a point where, like, if your team is repeatably good, like the New England Patriots were, like Bill Belichick is going to
Bill Belichick didn't win 20 straight somehow, you know?
Right. Because you're expected to be good. So there is a bell curve to that portion of it. But how many times has this guy been tested with a must-win game over the course of his career? Like, I did it. I remember it was classic cliche sports radio when he did the whole flowers and planting the roots. I came on the air, and you know me, Bill. I try not to be a hot take guy. I try not to be a scream into the microphone guy. But I came on the air that day, and I basically said, hey, you just basically said we now need to absolutely go and beat the Detroit Lions, who I think at that point were like 0-9 or something like that, or they were terrible that year. And I was like, you have to win this next game because you put yourself in a position where if you lose, people are gonna rip you forever.
The scrutiny will never go away.
That test was there. They passed. They end up turning that season around and going to the postseason. They weren't ready to compete. The Bucs were better than them.
That was not a good team.
Postseason after like a 3-7 start, or 3-6 start, which was really impressive. As you brought up, then the next year they go on and win. I don't know what they win, 13 games, go to the Super Bowl.
14, yeah.
Jalen Hurts outduels Patrick Mahomes. It was a classic Super Bowl that like just didn't go their way, but they were right in it the entire game. The following year, things start to crumble. People once again question Nick Sirianni. They start 2-2. The Cleveland Browns game then becomes a must-win game, and they win that game. It wasn't a pretty game, but they won the game, and they did what they needed to do. And then they rattled off all these wins in a row and annihilated the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So now you have a head coach who every time he's asked to be tested, every time the mettle of this team is tested, they have stepped up. And sure, it's a really good team, but like, isn't that the point of sports?
Yes.
Is to accumulate a good team around your coach?
It's just, we have gotten into this thing, and like the NFL, I think so many people are still living in like 2004 to 2012, like this Tom Brady, Peyton Manning world that the league just isn't anymore. Like, I think like we're still kind of the residual of that, just in the way, oh yeah, you have to have a 4,500-yard passer. Like, why though? Like,
right.
But every defense is now nothing but cornerbacks. So what if you run the ball and no one can tackle you? Like, okay, regardless, like I look at the rankings of coaches. I saw something yesterday where some, first takey whatever show like ranked Nick Sirianni 15th. It's, well, how? I really, how do you have him halfway in the, like, okay. And then you think about the way people talk about Jalen Hurts, like, oh, well, he's a tush push merchant, and look at his receivers and his O-line. Like, okay, so the Eagles are one team, and all other 31 teams, oh, well, you have to have a quarterback, you have to have a head coach. That's the only way you win. You have to have a great quarterback and a great head coach. Oh, the Eagles don't have that. They just have everything else. Like, what are we doing here? How is this? What is the scale we're being judged on? Like you said, the rookie of the or the coach of the year award, where everyone's just graded on a curve. It's right. All right. What was your win total last year? What is it this year? Subtract it. All right, the one with the highest number wins. Like, it's really just the most improved award is what the coach of the year award is. Like, the scale, the curve that the Eagles are being graded on, Sirianni and Hurts especially, I think it is what has endeared me most to them, other than just like winning, because going to Super Bowl parades is really fun. Like, other than the actual winning, it's this, like, you look at the success and people try to like explain it away. I just go like, am I watching something else? Have I been invested in something else all these years? where, oh yeah, it's always the coach and the head coach and the quarterback. No, not them though. Not them. Like, how does someone come to this conclusion?
Bill, I am 31, so that means I've lived 30 full years on this earth, barring a couple of lockouts here and there. Effectively, that's 120 seasons of the four major sports teams in this city. Of 120 seasons, I have seen 3 championships and 7 championship appearances?
A whole bunch of losses, yeah.
Yeah, 7 or 8 championship appearances. In 120 seasons, I don't care how you come to them. I don't care if you had a traffic cone, calling plays as the head coach.
Yes.
If you win the game, you win the game. But Nick Sirianni's not a traffic cone, because putting him 15th, basically dead smack in the middle of, basically as you're saying is he's there. He exists, and he's just the sideline.
Yep.
Like, he's not a hindrance and he's not a help. And I think maybe that's true in the sense of, yes, he's not calling offensive plays anymore. He had turned it over to Shane Steichen. He had turned it over to Kellen Moore. He didn't have that duty anymore. But what he's done is cultivate a team that's had a lot of success. And sure, the talent plays a massive part into it, but this team wins with him as the head coach. And to me, that's really all I can ask for. Are there better coaches than Nick Sirianni that maybe are on worse teams? Probably. I think if we went around the league and said, is he better or worse than every guy in the league? Maybe we come up with 7 or 8 better coaches, and maybe 5 or 6 of them are on worse teams because the Eagles are a top 3 team in the NFL. But at the end of the day, winning is all that matters to me.
Yeah.
And
he gets paid to do one thing, and he does it at an incredible rate. This team basically never loses.
Right.
They lose 5 games a year. I don't know. That's really, really good. Kind of what we're looking for. I don't know how else to judge a coach other than his results. That's it. The results.
48 regular season games in the last 4 seasons. He's won, 6 playoff games in the last 4 seasons? 2. So let's see, the NFC division and the NFC title in 2022. And the NFC division, the NFC title, the wild card, the title, the division, and the Super Bowl. So 6 playoff wins in 4 years, including 2 Super Bowl appearances, 48 regular season wins. What else am I supposed to ask of him?
I don't know what criteria we're grading him on other than the winning of the games that he's coaching in. That's all. All right, let's hit that parlay of the day. It is time for our BetParx Parlay of the day. I am going to go with something from tonight's hockey game. Let's hear yours first, Tyler.
Yeah, so yesterday, Bill, you've been with us before. You know the issues that John and I have had. When John is hot, I am not. And when I am hot, John is not. So yesterday, I thought I had a good play. And I took the under in the Twins and Guardians game. And in fact, I even bought it up a run. It was 7.5. I bought it to 8.5. And the game got suspended after 4 innings because of rain. They hit 3 different rain delays. And on the third one, they basically said, we're not doing this anymore. This game's suspended. So I guess that's a push.
I can't imagine it's the bet holds until the game comes back. I got to believe that that's a push.
And then Rich took the over 6 runs for the Phillies yesterday, and that clearly cashed. So I count that as a single game win because my game was suspended. So I think we won. I think we won yesterday.
I got to count that. I think we have to count it.
All right, so a 1-game winning streak, a chance to go 2-0. I am going to go to the Padres game tonight. The Padres are playing the Toronto Blue Jays in Toronto. Dylan Cease is on the mound for the Padres, and his over-under strikeout number is 5.5. Now, Dylan Cease has gone over that 5.5 number all but 2 starts this year. The common themes in the 2 starts that he didn't do it, he only pitched 4 innings. So any start this year in which Dylan Cease has gone into the 5th, regardless of results, he has struck out at least 6 hitters in every single one of those games. Dylan Cease has struggled this year with runs, and his whip is higher than it should be, and it's because he walks a lot of guys. But his strikeout numbers are undeniable. He's 6 and 7 and 10 and 9, basically most of the rest of the year. So I'm going to take Dylan Cease over tonight at minus 5.5 strikeouts at minus 110.
All right, so let's see, minus 110 for you, and I am going to take. And we are going to overtime, by the way. Head to allphly.com if you're one of our TV viewers to catch the rest of the show. bring up BetParx here. All right, Florida, Carolina, game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final tonight. Man, Florida is plus 102 on the money line. That is... Whoever the underdog was in this game, I was really going to want to bet them just because I have no idea how this series is going to play out. But I'm going to take the under 5.5 tonight at minus 118. It looks as if Sergei Bobrovsky is really dialed in right now in net for Florida. A little bit of a slower start for his postseason, but he's been really good lately. Allowed 1 goal in Game 7 against the Leafs. Now he's up against a Carolina team that they come at you in volume, but doesn't have a ton of firepower. And Carolina is just the best defensive team maybe I've ever seen, like at least since the lockout, like since they made the Devils illegal, basically. Carolina is just suffocating. I think this is going to be a hard-hitting game. I think it's going to be a hard-fought game. A lot of puck battles and corners, but maybe not a ton of scoring chances. So I'm going to take that that under 5.5 at minus 118. So that gives us a $50 bet at plus 253 to win 126.34 tonight. So that is our BetParx Parlay of the day between Tyler and I. Let's see how it works out. And Tyler, that's it. That is all the time for you on Philly today. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't already, subscribe right here to our YouTube channel. Follow us every single day, all of the PHLY content, because it is damn good, fam. We have a lot of really good stuff, including my show, the PHLY Flyers Show, which will be live at noon today. We'll be talking a little Rick Tocchet, talking a little draft, having some fun. It's going to be Kelly and I. So when Charlie's away, we like to screw around a little bit. So we're going to have some fun. Make sure you're following us. Set that reminder bell. Never miss a live show. Get notifications whenever we go live. Follow all of the Twitter accounts, including PHLY_sports. And that's it. Follow all the podcasts as well. All right. I am Bill Match. Thank you very much to my producer, Tyler Zulli, for helping out today. Huge hand in today's show. That's it. Have a great day, everybody.